everybody, my name's Meg.
And I'm Mari.
And welcome back to Spine and Ink.
Today we are going to be covering everything we each read in February. We're going to give our honest reviews and thoughts, and if we would recommend it. Keep in mind, just because I rated it 5 stars doesn't mean it's the best thing ever written. It's just because I enjoyed it that much. But yeah.
Yeah, so actually before we even get into that, let's start with, what are you reading right now?
I am on my second reread, so third read of Icebreaker, because I love it so much. And I just have to reread it once a year, and it's always like right at this time. It was time for me to reread it. And then I'm going to start Kilt Trip, I think, later today, because I'm almost done with Icebreaker.
I did start Kilt Trip this morning. I also just started my tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I literally, on my way here, finished The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. So, yeah, I'm kind of plowing through books right now.
Dude, wish I could say the same. I was, and then I wasn't, so.
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
Well, I'll kick us off.
Perfect.
Since I have quite a few books. So, my first book that I finished, I had started reading it in January, finished it the beginning of February, was Crown of Midnight. As I've mentioned before, I am currently on my Throne of Glass reread. The first time I read it was in 2020 into 2021, so it's been a while. So I'm having the best time ever. But this was a 4-star read for me this time around. It's phenomenal. I love the character development in this. I did not realize that by the end of it, you get so much information. So without any spoilers, like, you do learn some major plot points at the end of this one that I completely forgot about. I completely forgot about a lot that happened in this book, and I did cry, and it was awesome, and I had a wonderful time, but it was 4 stars because I just think that the rest of the series has a lot more to offer. So those are my thoughts on my first book of the month.
My first one of the month, I started reading like January 30th and then finished it in February. I actually don't have it, so we'll just pop the little cover here, but it is Serpent and the Wings of Night. It was fun. The writing style was kind of hard for me. Like, I have a hard time with anyone that's like, and then this happened, and then, and like, oh, that kind of started to drive me crazy, and I had a hard time getting over it. And I felt like there were parts that it was like really repetitive. Those were kind of like my gripes with it, but it was fun, So I think I rated it like 2.5. I wouldn't like reread it, and I'm a big book rereader, so that kind of like says something. I know. Everyone loves it. Like, so many people love it.
Yeah,
it was fine. It was okay. But yeah, like I say, if you're thinking about reading it, one of our cats is here to say hello. If you're thinking about reading it, like, absolutely go for it. It's entertaining for sure, and I was able to like totally breeze through it. It was just kind of like a me problem.
Yeah, I love that book. I love Rain and Dariah. I didn't necessarily love the second one as much as I loved the first one, but I do want to read Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I think that's the third one that she just put out.
Oh, okay.
But she's doing it in like 2 duology, but all in the same universe. So
I see.
Yeah, very interesting. Anyways, moving on, but I listened to The Graham Effect. I loved that one. I did not think I was going to, and if you watched our other episodes, I said when I was in the middle of it that I didn't think that I was going to love it. I was having trouble getting into it. By the end of it, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. Had a wonderful time. Loved it very, very much. I think that I gave it 4 stars. I can check my Goodreads. No, I gave it 3.5 stars, which is totally fair. I liked the development of Luke Ryder, the main male character, but I didn't love the character development until the very, very end of the female main character. She just felt very much the same throughout the whole thing, which was a bummer. But I also felt like an idiot because I have read The Deal, which is Elle Kennedy's like first series. It's the first book of her first series, is The Deal. And I did not know until I was like almost done reading it, and my friend was like, "Oh, I love Garrett Graham, who's the main guy in the deal," and I was like, "Yeah, I love Garrett Graham too, but what does that have to do with this book?" And then I was like, "Oh my God,
effect.
It's literally his daughter." Didn't know. I didn't pick up on it.
I definitely thought you knew that. Like,
Nope.
when you started reading it, so you
Nope.
came upstairs and you're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know this. I'm so stupid." And I was like,
Yep, nope, no
thought
idea.
you knew, girl. Thought
I'm
you
not
knew.
the best at picking up on context clues, and
okay.
and that will come back around in another book that I read this month. So, yeah, but anyways, 3.5. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. It was a warm hug of a book. I loved the narrators. They were great. So, yeah.
Alrighty.
On to you.
Okay, my next one. Y'all already know how I feel about this book. We talked about this in our like popular book talk books episode. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Everybody is loving it. It's all over my Instagram. No one understands people that don't like it. Like, everyone loved it. I like really strongly disliked it. Like, I went into more detail on that, like, popular book talk book episode, but allow me to just read you my Goodreads review, because I think it's, like, my own personal problems. So, without further ado, no, just no. Penn's entire existence just made me so uncomfortable the entire book. Why did she have to be mentioned so often at the worst times? It was real weird. The start of Lucas and Scarlett's relationship was so tough for me to get behind, and I stand by that. And I just couldn't really get over the whole situation the entire book. Maybe that's a me problem, but IDK. Also, Lucas and Scarlett both just don't have personalities. We get it, you're a perfectionist. We get it, you're kinky. In parentheses, not really though, for as big of a part of the book as it is, it was fairly vanilla. End of parentheses. And that's the entire premise of your relationship. I will admit, I cringed quite a few times for many reasons, many being word choice. There are just some words that don't belong in smut scenes, and I stand by that. IDK, it was just a big no from me. So sorry, Ali Hazelwood. Still love you, girl. Yeah, a lot of it is just my preferences.
Yeah.
Words I didn't like, just some of the situations that I'm like, ooh. You know, there are a lot of times in books where I'm like, ooh, if a real person did that, or if that was like a real life situation, that would be rough, but I can get over it. But this was one where I was like, this is really hard for me to like root for. And then when there's like not good characters either, like I just wasn't feeling the characters, it kind of just like went downhill from there. I literally rated it 1 star.
Right.
But yeah. Sorry, girl.
Well, and with that, another book I don't have a lot of the books that I read this month. I listened to a lot or read them on Kindle or did both. But I did read Good Material by Dolly Alderton, which I rated 3 stars. The more that I think about it, the more I think it's more like 3.5, the longer that I sit with it. That book was written so brilliantly, and I did not have any idea until I got to the very end. You read the whole thing, and it just kind of feels like slice of life from a male perspective about relationships and a breakup. And he's honestly quite annoying throughout a majority of the book. There's moments that are very relatable, but there's also a lot that is just quite aggravating. But it made sense in the context of the breakup. And then you get to the end, without any spoilers, there is a complete narration shift, and then you get a whole new perspective on the entire book in like 1 chapter, which was just so phenomenal, and it was so well written about the experience of women, even though it's a man. Just trust me on this. Just trust me on this.
Fair.
Understanding what women go through, and that men will never understand what it's like to be a woman. And it was just written so good. Yeah, it's rated lower for me just because I think that it did drag on at certain points, and I need some action to like keep my attention. Unfortunately, the narrator of the audiobook was so phenomenal. I am obsessed with him. He was so good, and he had an accent, and it felt like a movie in my head, legitimately. But yeah, it just dragged at certain points, and so for that, it is a little lower. but the ending made it completely worth it. So I highly, 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 highly recommend it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Your turn.
My next one is Mile High, the first book in the Windy City series, which I've spoken so highly of, like, multiple times on this podcast. So then, after speaking to some bookish friends who did not feel the same way I felt, at least about the first book, I was like, it's been a while since I read it. I read it very early on in, like, my reading journey. Maybe I just need to reread it. My opinions have shifted. Not of the entire series, just of this one. Only because when I was rereading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is, like, really hard to get through, just because Evan Zander's, the male main character, is, like, really bad in the beginning. And I think, like, a big part of it is that you're in his point of view. And, like, it's different when a male main character starts out and he, like, seems like an asshole because of the stuff he says. But I'm like, oh, you suck because of the way you think. And, like, that's really hard for me to get over. And so, like, being in his POV, it's dual POV, so being in his so often and still seeing, like, oh, you don't just, like, say things and not think about it, or, like, there's not really an excuse when it's, like, also you're thinking that way, so that was kind of hard for me to get over. And it's also just, like, a really long book. Like, it's just a little too long for my liking, but I still, like, really love Stevie, the female main character. I love her, like, because I love the series so much, and I do really like them, like, as the books go on, and I like the ending. I still, like, kept it fairly high. I would say, read it if you're interested, but, like, no shame if you decide to skip it and read the rest of the series. Now I'm kind of starting to tell people to do that. So I moved it down to, like, 2 stars, just because that's, like, so hard to get over. And it's kind of, like, throughout the whole book. Just a couple of things I didn't really, like, notice the first time I went through it, but rereading I was like, ooh, my opinions have changed.
Yeah.
But just on this one.
As you grow as a reader, too, things are always going to be different the second time around. And it is a testament to the quality of the book if you can read it multiple times and it still holds up to your original rating or even gains stars.
Yeah. But again, it's the first in the series, and the series gets so much better after. So it's kind of like, I think this was just first draft. But
yeah, you can skip it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go on to this one next. So, Heir. I read this in literally like a week. I knew that once I got to this book, it was going to be insane. Like, I couldn't put it down because I have such a deep love for this book. I did the first time I read it, loved it even more the second time I read it. I completely forgot how much emotional growth there is in this series. The female main character, whose name I can't say, Selena.
I haven't read it yet, just for context. Anytime we talk about
Selena,
Selena, class and she has to stop herself, that's why.
Selena, she just grows so much in this one book. I was sobbing. I was like screaming. There was just so much going on, and I was distraught, absolutely distraught. But yeah, this book is incredible. We meet Rowan in his book, which is just phenomenal. Oh, this is Princess Buttercup.
This is one
and
of our
she's
cats.
very snuggly, so.
She is. She's also, if you see her kind of walking weird, she's missing her 2 back feet. She was born that way. So she kind of, okay, hi. Oh. For those just listening, she just, like, climbed into my lap, which is really sweet. Our cats are, like, snuggly, but not often. So when they are, it's, like, really
She's really
precious.
snuggly,
I mean,
though.
she is,
yeah.
but, like, mostly with you, less with me. So this is, like, really cute. Anyway, continue on.
Yeah. So, 5 stars. 5 stars. Please read it. Please read it. 5 stars. And you could tell how much I love this book by the fact that yeah, it's like falling apart. Yeah, I have no other words. I'm speechless. I would like to be buried with this series, and that's all I have to say. So So, your turn.
Okay. On to my next one. This was a really quick read for me. It's Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I've had this on my bookshelf for years. I bought it like years and years ago, thinking that I was gonna read, and I bought it with a bunch of other books, and I didn't read any of them. And so I've just been meaning to get to it, and I was like, you know what, I have a day, I'm just gonna sit and read it, and I did. And it was so good. It's a young adult, so again, it's super easy. It's really short to get through, but the story is just so incredible. It's incredibly digestible, which I think is the point. But especially right now, it's just so relevant. I also really, really liked the writing style. There was a couple of scenes that were kind of formatted more like a script rather than like dialogue, which was cool. So I also really liked that. I really loved it. I highly recommend. But again, it's YA. It's written like YA. I think like it could have been a little bit longer, could have been a little bit deeper, but there is a second and soon to be, I believe, a third that I'm probably also going to read that might help me feel like there's a little bit more to the story, just because I was like, I feel like there's so much more to be said. So I rated it 4 stars, only because I was like, I want to know more. But still, I really highly recommend it. It's really quick and easy to get through. Just read it. Just like sit down on a day that you have free and read it, because it's so good. So, yeah.
What'd you rate it?
It said 4 stars.
Oh, I missed that.
You missed it.
Sorry, I was staring at my cat.
More like 4.5, honestly.
Okay, yeah. Really I think 4 stars is pretty much where I sit for a lot of YA, if I like it. Because it's like missing that little like adult element.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that's just because it's YA.
Yeah.
And I knew that picking it up, so.
Yeah.
For a YA, 5 stars. Just 4.5, because I would have liked like a little bit more. But yeah.
Understandable.
Real.
So my next book I also did not physically have, and I listened to it. If you follow us on TikTok, you saw my reaction video to the last bit of it that I was listening to while I was baking for our book event. And this was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva Rose. I am obsessed with Jeneva Rose, aside from her writing, because although I did really enjoy this book, it wasn't my highest rated thriller that I've read, but I know that it's also one of her older books, so I'm so excited to read her newer stuff soon. The Perfect Marriage is my friend's book club book for this month, so I will be reading that soon, and I'm so pumped but her on social media I'm obsessed with her. I love her. She's hilarious. So Jeneva Rose, if you're watching this, girl, I'm obsessed with you. But yeah, this book was 3.5 stars for me. There was a lot of things towards the beginning that their romance, it is like a thriller romance, which is really interesting. Yeah. There was a lot of things in their romance that was just kind of driving me insane.
Real.
They got together so fast. Things were happening, and I was like, this is weird. Like, I'm just weirded out. Knowing the end of the book now, it does make sense as to why that was written that way, but I did struggle with it a little bit at the beginning. The plot twist at the end was done really well, because and my Goodreads, like, review, what I wrote was, ooh, what? Oh my god, gross. Wait, this is what I expected. Wait, that's not what I expected. And that was it. Because that was my thoughts while I was reading. But it like ended and I went, oh, well, damn, like, that's what I thought was going to happen. That's a bummer. Like, that wasn't really a plot twist. And then it all of a sudden was not at all what I expected. So I really love when thrillers do that. So that was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were some moments that were quite graphic, and I was like, gonna vom, but not the most graphic book I've read. So if you like a very easy thriller to get through, I half read it, half listened to it. It was quite easy to get through. I would recommend if you just want like another book to add to your list. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, noted. Okay, See, totally different vibes. My next one is The Right Move. So I'm just going to be going through this whole series now because I reread the whole series this month, or I guess last month. The Right Move by Liz Tomford. It's the second in the Windy City series. God, I love this book. This is genuinely like one of my favorite books of all time. And Ryan Shea is like my end-all be-all book boyfriend, other than Nate Hawkins. But the two of them are kind of like the blueprint. I love this book so much. I love a sports romance. This one's basketball, and like basketball, best friend's brother, kind of thing. Like if you're into those tropes, fake dating, wink wink, nudge nudge, love that trope. So I highly recommend it. I rated it 5 stars. Of course, there are little things that I'm like, ooh, if that were in the real world, wouldn't quite make sense, but whatever. I get past it. I just love this book so much. It's so cute, and it's kind of just like the way that they love each other is how I want to be loved, you know?
Tender.
Just really tender, really sweet. It's like a really good Grumpy Sunshine where the Grumpy like still has a personality, because I feel like sometimes in Grumpy Sunshine like their entire personality is just that they're brooding, so you like don't really get to know them and they don't really like have much to them. This one's very different. So I highly recommend it. 5 stars, hands down. I love this book. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next book I read in one day, and this is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I hope that I have been saying the titles of my books. I think I have. But yeah,
so.
All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Super short sci-fi book. I am on my journey this year that I really want to read the Red Rising series. I have not read a lot of sci-fi in my lifetime, at least since I was probably in middle school was like the last time I read fantasy sci-fi type of stuff. I just don't read a lot of sci-fi. And so I'm trying to get into it because I just know that there's so much out there that I would most likely really enjoy. Mm-hmm. So the lady at the bookstore, and her name I can't remember, I'm so sorry. But at Books Are Awesome, which is our favorite bookstore, recommended me this to help me kind of get into the sci-fi state of mind. And it wasn't my favorite read, but that was mostly just because I know that this is part of a series, or it's called the Murderbot Diaries. And so I know that there's going to be a lot more conflict and a lot more things down the road, but a lot just happened very quickly, and the stakes didn't feel as high as I wanted them to be for all of that to be happening so quickly. When things happen really fast, if the stakes are really high and the stakes feel very high, I can get behind it. If not, then I'm like, well, you're just throwing things on the page. But the concept of this is hilarious, and the humor was really well done. So I did enjoy it. It just wasn't my favorite. But I read it in a day. It was not a hard read at all. I think it was a great way, or a great gateway into sci-fi for me, because it's very digestible. So if you need something to kind of get you in the mindset and then to go into a more complex series, this is definitely it, because it trains your brain to kind of set aside the trying to process everything as it's coming at you and more just absorb it, and then eventually you'll understand. You know, I think fantasy's the same way in a lot of ways. You have to just let it wash over you, and eventually you will understand. Because I did. It was a lot of information at first, and then you get it by the end. So I think I rated it 2.5 stars. It was pretty decent. There were parts that I really enjoyed and parts that I just didn't. But yeah, it served its purpose. So I'm happy with it.
Okay. My next one is the third in the Windy City series, but I don't have it. We'll put it right here. It's caught up. Honestly, I didn't get it when I got the rest of them, like when I bought the physical copies, because I didn't think I was ever going to reread it, to be honest. because at the time I read it the first time, I was like, yeah, this was fine, didn't love the tropes. I'm probably never going to reread it. And I was going to skip it over like this reread, but I'm really glad I didn't, because rereading it, I enjoyed it a lot more this time. I really, really loved it. I will say it moves really, really quickly. Like, their relationship moves so fast. And when there's a kid involved, that kind of seems like really crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, it's better than a lot of rom-coms that we watch and love. So like, whatever, I'll allow it. I'll let it slide. And if you just accept that it's going to move really fast and it's really impractical and you just love it anyway, it's really fun. And so I'm actually really glad that I reread it, because I loved it. Just because of, like, again, personal preferences, I'm going to rate it 4 stars, but I would highly recommend it. Super fun. Nanny, single dad, baseball. What else? Like, what other tropes are in it? There's a lot of, like, little tropes in there, but I love it. It's so fun.
My next one I also do not have. I listened to it. I'm a big audiobook girl, if you couldn't tell. Is Scarred by Emily McIntire. I went into this book because I read Hooked, which is the first one in this Never After, I'm pretty sure is the title of that, like, series. And I went into it thinking that it was going to be fun and a fine read, because Hooked for me was kind of whatever. Like, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything super memorable, and there were good parts and a lot of things that I didn't love. This one, I don't know what she put into that book, crack cocaine, because holy shit, dude. I was obsessed. I was really obsessed, and it was quite dark. It was very dark, and she, I mean, writes dark romance, and they're fairy tale retellings-ish. I don't know. I'm speechless about that book. Tristan is so good. Like, he's so good. He is the perfect, that is the perfect enemies to lovers villain. There were parts of their enemies to lovers storyline that I didn't love, but him as a villain to lover type of situation, so good. Like, I loved him a lot. His motives were so clear through the whole book, and he still did things that I'm like, oh, that's terrible, but I get it. Like, but I get it. I understand. Yeah. And yet again, coming into play, my lack of ability to pick up on context clues.
You're exposing yourself right now. You could just talk and not share that.
No, that's okay. I'm going to share, because I want people to know that it's okay. I was talking to my friend about the book, my best friend Beth, shout out Beth, and I was like, oh, this is happening, and there's these 2 guys, and they're 2 brothers, and, you know, they're in the kingdom, and blah, 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 blah. And I start explaining some of the plot, and she goes, okay, so like the Lion King? Yes, okay, just like the Lion King. Did I know that? No. Did I pick up on that until the last, like, 100 pages? No. And then she goes, well, let me know how it ends. And I was like, oh, well, you know, it's the Lion King, so you know. Anyways, so yeah, did I know that it was going to be the Lion King?
At the beginning of this book, you started it and you were like, it's actually really good, like, I'm really enjoying it. And I was like, oh, that's like the whole, like, Disney / like fairy tale retelling series, right? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, oh, what's this one a retelling of? And she was like, I don't think it is, actually. I think this one might not be. I was like, okay.
No, it's the Lion King, and I'm dumb. And there's...
It's okay. It's okay.
And
it happens to the best of us. It's okay.
Because the Lion King, you know, based off of Hamlet, there is a character in this book, and her name's Ophelia. So it's like she doubled down on this whole thing. One of the prince's names is Michael. Yeah, like Mufasa. And the other guy's Tristan, but they call him the Scarred Prince. And all of this you know early on. This is not spoilers, but yeah, they called him the Scarred Prince, hence the name Scarred. And he literally has a scar all the way down, like Scar. I was just, yeah, so I felt really dumb in that moment. But the fact that I didn't pick up on it, I think was also a testament to the fact that she was writing the story really, really well, and that it was a retelling, but that it was completely separate in a lot of ways, and a whole new take on it that I just had no idea, and I wouldn't have had any idea until the very end. There is something that happens at the end that I was like, okay, right, so Lion King. But yeah. Anyways, I did really enjoy that book a lot more than I thought I was going to. And so I believe I rated it 4.5 stars on my Goodreads. I kind of teeter between 4 and 4.5 because in a lot of ways it doesn't level up to some of my other 4-star reads. Mm. But then again, I had such a good time reading it that I don't really care. 4.5, So it's kind of somewhere in between for me. But
rating on like enjoyment.
Yeah. I also had no idea that Emily McIntire had cancer. And until I started following her because I was like, oh, I need to read more of her books because I love her. And I had no idea that she had cancer.
Wow.
And so now I'm like even more I was gonna read the rest of the series anyways because I've been enjoying it. But now I'm even more like, oh, girl, I will support you to the ends of the earth. Like, to whatever end, I will support you. If you know, you know. And yeah, so I think I have read all of her books through audiobooks. Mm-hmm. So I think that I'm going to go and buy all of them because...
Yeah. I have the first one.
Yes.
I have a physical copy of Hooked.
Yes, I did know that.
So we just need the rest.
Yeah, I just want to buy the rest of the series because...
I haven't read it yet, but I have it.
I want to give her everything that I possibly can.
Yeah.
So...
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
on to you.
Did not know that. Oh, okay. My last one. Gosh, I wonder if you can guess. Play along. The last as of right now in the Windy City series. And I think it's, it's like really, really close to the right move. At least for like placement in this series. I love this book. I love it. I will say Isaiah's persistence in this book, like sometimes if like a guy did that to me and I wasn't interested, it would drive me insane. But because like she's also definitely interested, she just can't do anything about it because of work. It's okay. Like I'll allow it and it's actually really sweet. But it is a drunk married in Vegas, now we have to stay married because of work things book. And it's baseball. He is, I don't have caught up, he's Kai's brother, so from the previous book, which I love because then we get to see previous couples yet again. Mm-hmm. And I just love Isaiah and Kennedy both. I love them so much. And I don't know, I love like an arranged marriage of convenience, accidental marriage, like anything having to do with that I love those tropes. And so this one's just so fun and it's really sweet. And again, I feel like both of the characters are just written very well. Like they both have some substance to them and they just have such big personalities. Like I can visualize them so well. And yeah, I don't know. It's just really sweet. I just love this book. And I cannot wait for the next one. I cannot wait. Everyone that's gotten it early has said it's so, so good. And the next one is about a character that we've seen throughout the entire series. And I have loved since the beginning. So I cannot wait to read his book, especially after reading like the end of this one. I'm so excited. I just can't wait. I just love all these books. Mile High was really the only one that my opinions have changed on, but the rest of them I loved. This one though, it's like 4.5 just because of like some little preference things. But please read all these books. Just please, they're so good. Well, 3 of them.
Maybe don't read the first one.
Yeah, maybe just don't. Maybe just skip it because I fear if you read the first one and you like really dislike it, you're not going to want to read the rest of the series.
You might be turned off.
You might be like turned off from the rest of the series, which is so good. So maybe just skip it. Yeah.
Okay, this is my last book of the month. Queen of Shadows.
The like sigh into the word says it all.
Queen of Shadows. Holy shitballs. Like, oh my god,
She has no words, just like noises.
I need to take a breath.
Are you kidding? That's unfair. She made those. I need to calm down. Everything's fine.
Amanda.
I'm an adult.
5 stars. If I could give this book 10 out of 5 stars, like I would. This is one of the most phenomenal books I've ever read in my entire life, and I will still stand by that. And I just know that it only gets better from here too. And that is mind-boggling to me. I just can't even comprehend how it's going to get better. This book holds such a special place in my heart. The relationships in this book are phenomenal. The character growth is phenomenal. The politics, and I didn't even mention it about Heir, but in this one as well, the politics of the world are so incredibly relevant to what is currently like in our own political climate in the world right now, that it just makes me cry. Like reading about the internal struggles of these characters, and especially if you have read it, if you haven't, this is not a spoiler, but if you have read it, like what Kale is going through, of his indecision on what side to choose. And while I am not an indecisive person on which side to choose in the world right now, I understand where he like is coming from. And I don't know, I had a completely different perspective knowing what I know of that moral struggle now, that it was just completely different. It hit me completely differently. His character hit me completely differently in Heir, and then was incredibly frustrating for a while in this book, but I just still felt like I understood him in a completely different way. And Selena being reunited with a very specific someone, if you know, you know, was just incredible. And
I'm just gonna take that.
So good. You'll know when you get there. It's, you know, if you know when she gets reunited with a certain someone.
Yeah, but you saying reunited is now when I read it, I'm going to be like, oh, she's separated from this person, so that must be they're going to come back later, and now I'm going to overthink it.
No, you know that.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was like, girl, now I'm going to be like overthinking that when I'm reading it.
No.
Oh,
You
person left, but I know they're going to come back, so.
You know that they are going to be
okay,
reunited.
Okay.
You're very aware of it. They just had to be separated due to some circumstances.
Okay.
But you were fully aware, so no spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, it was so good. It was just even better on the reread. I did not think that I was going to cry. I made it through the entire book, and I was screaming and feeling things, and it was so wonderful. And then I got to the last 2 pages, and I sobbed like a little baby, and I sobbed for like an hour after, and I have a picture of myself crying, and I sent it to my boyfriend, and I was like, did I finish this book, or did this book finish me? Because I just couldn't get over it for probably half an hour afterwards. And I cannot wait to get deeper and deeper into the story and read Empire of Storms, because Empire of Storms is so phenomenal. And fun fact, I never read Tower of Dawn the first time that I read the series. I read an extremely detailed Reddit synopsis, because if you've read Empire of Storms, you know that the ending of that book is insane. And so there was no way that I was going to go from the ending of that to then a completely different storyline in Tower of Dawn. I had to go straight to Kingdom of Ash. There was no way I wasn't going to. And if you've read it, you probably agree. So I just couldn't do it. So I read a very detailed synopsis, so I was completely in the know when it came to Kingdom of Ash. But I'm so excited to do this tandem read, and I'll keep you updated through the whole journey. But yeah, I'm so excited, and I love everything about this series, and I love this book so much. And my Goodreads review, like what I wrote in my Goodreads review, was bury me with this book, and that was it. And 5 stars. I have no other words. It needs no explanation. So those were all my reads for the month.
that's everything we had to cover for our February recap. Our next read is going to be Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. And
Let me double check.
then that's going to be like our book club book of the month. So we'll do an episode on that.
So yes, Everything I Know About Love, Dolly Alderton's memoir. Keep a lookout for that episode. And we do have a very special episode coming up soon, which we'll tell you about
When
shortly.
the time
It's a
comes.
secret. But yeah, something very exciting and very special coming. And yeah, we look forward to all of our March reads. Can't believe it's already March.
I know.
And we hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you next Friday.
We will see you next Friday. We love ya.
Okay.
Keep on reading.
Yeah, keep reading. Bye.
Bye.